Nobody hands you a roadmap for buying a house. So here's mine, 6 steps in order and what actually happens during each one. So step number 1 is the pre-approval and why you must get this before you fall in love with a house. So it's really, really awful to work with people, and they've been looking at Zillow, they've been looking, on all these different websites and things like that, and they find houses that they just absolutely fall in love with, and it's the one that they want to try to buy, right? Well, they didn't get a pre-approval from a lender first. So what happens is when they do go to that lender and the lender pulls their income and their debt to income ratio and their debts that they already have, all of that good stuff in it, and they add everything together, the amount that you're approved for ends up being less than what that house you fell in love with costs. And so just to completely avoid that altogether, we want to always start with a pre-approval first, because that gives you the best basis and the best information to get you started on your home search. So that way, you're actually looking at homes that you can afford rather than trying to, look through and sift through all of these homes that you were never going to get approved for in the first place. Now, moving on to step number 2 is actually starting the process of looking for a house. So once you have that pre-approval and we know what you're able to afford and what the lender says that you can buy, then I set you up on a search, and basically it pulls all of the homes that fit your criteria within that price range. So how many bedrooms and bathrooms you want, square footage, location, all of those things get put into this search criteria, and then only homes that fit that are sent to you, and you get all the listings that are available now, and then every time a new listing comes up, that gets sent to you as well. So that way you never miss out on any homes that come up, and you really don't even have to look on Zillow, because honestly, Zillow pulls all of their houses from our local MLS system, which is where I'm sending you homes for sale anyways. So you kind of can ditch Zillow. You can just look at the homes I send you, because those are going to be the best fit for your criteria. So when you actually get this list of homes and you see ones and you're like, okay, there are 5 on this list that I want to go look at, you reach back out to me. I schedule the showings on all of them. We pick a day, time, all that good stuff, and we just go knock them all out and see as many as we can. Now, here's what is really important for you to remember when you are touring houses. You should be focusing on major things, not what the home looks like. So let's say that you absolutely just hate their decorations, you hate the paint color, whatever. Well, those are all things that can be easily changed, right? You're probably going to paint the house when you move in anyways, and it's going to be your decorations, not theirs, that are in it. So you have to just envision the space with your stuff, your style, all of that in it. And does it work for you with your things in it, in your mind? Then that's kind of what we're shooting for. Now, the things that you really want to focus on, though, are the major items that are going to be costly. Like, is the roof old? The HVAC system, is that old? Is that going to need to be replaced soon? Those are items that, that's not a cheap fix, right? If your HVAC goes out or your roof needs to be replaced within a year of owning it, you're talking thousands of dollars to fix those things. So that's the kind of stuff that you should be focusing on. Another huge one is the location of the house. And that's because of, well, not only are you going to be happy in that location, and, do you have kids, or are you going to have kids? So are you going to be okay with the neighborhood that you're in, for safety purposes and just general lifestyle needs? And then also for resale value, because for your first home, this is going to be a step up, right? So you start off small, you grow your equity over several years, and then you're able to use that equity to help you get into a better, bigger house in the future. So location is a very, very important part of all of this, because if I can't resell your house, then that's a problem, right? And I'm going to tell you that. I'm going to say, look, I don't think the resale value on this home is going to be as good as this other one that we looked at. And we'll talk through those things, as we get into the process, but you just have to realize that the house itself can be changed, right? You can always remodel it, you can fix it up, you can do a lot of things to the house, but you can never change the location of it. So those are the things that you are really, really, really going to want to focus on when you actually start touring these homes. Okay, so step 3, let's say you find a home and you're ready to write an offer. Okay, so for the offer, I take care of all that for you. So I talk through everything that is included in the offer with you, and we just kind of go through it step by step. I will explain it the entire way. I write it up for you. I send it to you. You sign it, and then we send it over to the listing agent and wait for a response from the sellers. Now, a couple of things can happen. They can accept your offer. That would be amazing, right? Woo! Offer accepted, move on to the next step. Or they can counter your offer. So let's just say that the house is listed for $300,000 and you offer $290,000. They can counter back and say, maybe they counter back $295. Maybe they counter back the full $300. Maybe there's other parts of your offer that they didn't really care for. They can counter back anything that they want to from your offer. Then that puts the ball back into your court, and then you can either accept their counter or you can counter back again. And we can keep doing this back and forth until we come to an agreement, or you guys both decide that it's not going to work out and you move on to the next house. The one thing that rarely ever happens, but it can, is sometimes the seller may not respond to your offer at all. And that would be a scenario of like if they're kind of offended by what you offered them. So like if the house is listed at $300 and you offer $225, I mean, that's pretty low, right? So they may not respond to you at all. They may say it's not even worth our time. We're not even going to counter back. That rarely ever happens, but just realize that that is one of the things that could happen. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't then come back and write another offer again, but you better come closer to their asking price or they're probably just going to ignore you again. So that's kind of how the offer works. And again, you don't need to remember any of that. I walk you through it every single step of the way. Okay, so step number 4 comes after your offer is accepted. And that would be when we schedule the inspection. Now, back a few years ago, people were going crazy, right? When it was really hard to get a house because so many people were competing for those same houses. And so people were going nuts and paying more than they should have and all this stuff. A lot of people were waiving inspections, and that is just not something I'm ever going to suggest that you do. It is so risky. It puts you in a really, really big financial bind if you buy the house and something was majorly wrong with it, and then now you have to fork it over, right? You have to fork over the money to fix it. And I strongly suggest not doing that. And I'm not even talking about, I only suggest that to first-time home buyers. This is anybody. I don't even care if you have money, right? It is worth the $400 to $500 it costs to have an inspection, to have that peace of mind, and to be able to ask the seller for items to be fixed, because that's part of this. So let's kind of dig into that a little bit. So first of all, when you get an inspection report back, don't be alarmed. They always come back with something on them. There's going to be a laundry list of items of things that are wrong with the house, right? First of all, you have to remember, this is not a new house. And even on new builds, there are inspection things that come back. There are problems with new builds that have to be fixed before you can buy them. So it's, things like electrical outlets and peeling paint, and there's, maybe the furnace is dirty or whatever. There's a whole bunch of different things that can come back. Now, there's a lot of stuff in an inspection report that an inspector is going to write in there that are very minor things that we really want to avoid, basically asking the seller for just a ton of nonsense, right? What we want to focus on are the money items. Does the roof need to be replaced? That's a big one. Is there mold anywhere in the house? That's a big one. That needs to be remediated before you move in. Is there, is the HVAC working? If it's not working properly, we may need to have it cleaned or serviced or replaced. There's all kinds of things like that, foundation issues, crawl space, all of that. Those are items that are huge that we must look into. And if there are problems with them, then we go down the route of asking the seller to fix them. And what happens at that point is the seller can either say, yes, I will repair the items you're asking for, or they can say, I will repair these items, but not these. They could offer money in place of it. I'll give you $10,000 credit at closing towards a contractor of your choice to have those items fixed, or I'll take the money off the price, or they could just flat out say no. There's so many different options that can happen with an inspection. But again, I'm here to walk you through that. So you're not doing this alone. This is something that we negotiate for you and with you every single step of the way. But that's kind of how the inspection works, and something to be prepared for when your offer is accepted. And then we have step number 5, which is the appraisal. So when you get a mortgage from a lender, the lender is going to require that an appraisal happen on the house. And so what an appraisal does is it tells the lender exactly what the market value of your home is. So an appraiser comes out, they do a little valuation, and then they pull comps in the area to determine what that house is actually worth. So if you're paying $300,000 for it, then it has to come in at $300,000 or higher for the lender to loan you the amount that you need to buy that house. So let's talk about what happens if it comes in less. So let's say that it's $300,000 and the appraisal comes in at $290,000. If it comes in at $290,000, there are a couple of options. One, you can bring the additional $10,000 in cash to closing. 2, you can ask the seller to reduce the price of the home to $290,000. Or option 3 is that you both kind of negotiate it together. Maybe you bring $5,000 and the seller comes down $5,000. There are definitely options that happen. And I will say that more often than not, appraisals do come in either right at the number that you're paying for it or higher. Rarely do they come in low, but when they do, there are options that we can work through to try to negotiate with the seller. And usually we have pretty good luck on that. Okay, so I don't want you to get too worried or freak out that may be something that would happen. But we do usually have some options to be able to negotiate back and forth again with the seller and kind of get it to the closing table. And then step 6, after the inspection's done, appraisal's done, all of those negotiations are over, and you are finally clear to close from your lender, getting the final approval, that's going to be final walkthrough and closing day. So final walkthrough usually happens either the night before closing or right before closing in the morning of the day of. And basically we go through and we make sure that the house is in the order that it was when you said you were going to buy it, or better, right? So that there's nothing crazy that they did. They didn't rip out all the countertops and take them with them, or, the bathroom vanities or some, ceiling fans, things like that. That everything is still there, and that all the items that they said they were going to fix on the inspection have in fact been fixed. And if we say, okay, it looks great, then we go to the closing table. And that's where you sign all of your paperwork and you get your keys and the home is finally yours. So that's it. That's the 6 steps of buying a house. And I know it sounds a little bit, crazy that it's so simple, but it really is. And yes, there's a lot of little steps along the way that kind of fill into those 6 larger steps. But I promise you that if you have a good agent on your side to help walk you through this, that it won't feel that scary at all, and that you can ask questions along the way and get the guidance that you need. So let's just kind of rehash all 6 steps that we already talked about. So step number 1 was the pre-approval. Step number 2 is starting to look at homes. Step 3 is making offers. Step 4 is inspections. Step 5 is the appraisal. And then step 6 is your final walkthrough and closing. If you want the entire first-time buyer's roadmap written out, comment first below or hop over to Facebook and send me a message, and I will send that right over to you. Check this out.